What's going on, everybody? Welcome to PFF's live NFL preview show here for week 15 of the NFL regular season. We got all sorts of games to talk about. We've got Thursday games, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. There's so much to get to. So glad that you guys are here hanging out with us as we get you ready for this Sunday, Monday, Tuesday slate to close out week 15. We got a new presence on the desk, boys.
It's not new.
That's true. It's true. It is not true. It's a new seat. It's a new seat because you were over here last week. Now you're switching. Now you're doing musical chairs on us. Austin Gayle, of course, Ian Hartitz, and Eric Eager as well. Fellas, how are we doing on this beautiful Sunday morning?
Fantastic.
Great day to be great. Fantasy playoffs.
Fantasy playoffs. What's the percentage of leagues that you made the playoffs in?
6 for 13.
Okay.
Not my best year.
No, but that's pretty good.
Better than Carson Wentz.
5 for 12.
6 for 13 is better than Carson Wentz. Man, that was quick.
It's a good start.
I gotta give it to you. We also have Kendall Valenzuela here with us. She is checking out all of your YouTube comments, your Twitter replies, everything over on the Bar Studio set. Kendall, how are we doing?
Hello, good. Everyone's excited that Austin's back, so it's gonna be a good show.
Damn people, please.
Are you gonna threaten to arm wrestle anybody this week?
So I didn't even do that.
But you were ready to go. When they
ready.
said it on the chat last week, you were like rolling up the sleeve.
I was ready to rock.
That might be why Sam's not on the desk.
No, Sam's not on the desk because he didn't want to lose in an arm wrestling.
Well, we've had to change it from PG-13 to R because you're back.
Well,
Yes,
I'm not swearing once on the show.
You already have.
It won't happen.
you can't prove that. There is nothing to say to prove that. Well, you brought up Carson Wentz. So we got to talk about Carson Wentz. We've got to talk about the Indianapolis Colts taking down the New England Patriots. Patriots were the 1 seed going into that game. Colts, it was a massive win. It really was. And obviously Wentz didn't look fantastic, but they're now right in the middle of that playoff hunt for the AFC. And I mean that seriously, not the in the hunt playoff teams that go all the way down to like the 18th ranked team in the league. What did you guys think about the game in Indianapolis? How for real are the Colts? What was the big takeaways?
Carson Wentz didn't look fantastic. He looked horrendous. He had 2 drop picks and an actual pick. He went 5 for 12 for 57 yards. Overthrew Michael Pittman Jr. Should have been picked 3 times. It was terrible. Jonathan Taylor in that offensive line is one of the best.
He found a way to overthrow Mo Alley Cox in the end zone.
That was not an overthrow. That was one of his better throws. That was a Mo Alley Cox drop.
All the bettors who had the over in that game and they had to surrender those 4 points.
That was not his bad throw.
Mo Alley Cox is the largest human in the NFL. How do you overthrow him?
He didn't overthrow him. They hit him in the mitts. That's Mo Alley Cox drop. Check PFF. Look at the stats.
So you're believing in the Colts then?
I'm not believing in the Colts. Carson Wentz is not a good quarterback. I don't see them as deep.
But there's so many good things about the Colts, and this is, I think, the tilting.
What are the good things?
Jonathan Taylor.
Frank Reich is a wonderful coach.
Yeah, that's one.
Matt Eberflus has done more with less on that defense for half a decade now. They have a great offensive line.
They do.
They dominate up front on the defensive side of the ball with Buckner and guys like that. Darius Leonard's a wonderful middle linebacker, and their secondary. There's no star in that secondary, but they play great football together. Honestly, the saddest thing about this is that they've been good enough for Carson Wentz to go over the snap threshold and give their first-round pick to the Eagles. Like that I think is the trickiest thing about this entire season for them. But they're a team that I think is too limited to win a Super Bowl. But if you're a fan of any of the teams in the AFC that have one of the better seeds, you're kind of scared if you play them in the playoffs because they can just sort of just pound the heck out of you running the football. And they did it last night without their starting center, Ryan Kelly, who is one of the better players on the team. So a very impressive win last night, but it also did reveal kind of where they stand in the pantheon of great teams in the NFL, which is a nuisance, but not actually one of the great teams.
You said no stars in the secondary. I do want to give a shout out to Kenny Moore because every time I watch Kenny Moore, he is making plays. He is fantastic. I don't know if he's a superstar. We'd call him a superstar, but man, he has been fantastic. Are we worried at all about the Patriots? Does this change anything, really? Because some people looked at this game from Mac Jones, and yeah, it had more turnovers, but a lot of people thought, no, this is just Mac. He just had more turnovers this week. It's basically the way that it is. Does this limit the Patriots, who some people thought were the Super Bowl favorites from the AFC a couple of weeks ago? What do you guys think about the Patriots?
I don't think so. Mac Jones had 2 pretty bad throws in this one. One, obviously, to Darius Leonard that was gifted to him in the red zone, his first red zone interception of his career, and also snapped the longest active streak in the NFL for the Patriots scoring in the first half. 99 straight games. That snapped it. And then the Bobby Okereke play, maybe a little late, maybe a little behind. He was already driving on the football. But, dude, that was an insane interception from Bobby Okereke or Okereke, whatever it is. I do think that this, in my opinion, does not kill Mac Jones and New England Patriots. He said it best in the post-game interview, Coming off a bye, he felt like the energy was low, and this looked like a Patriots team where the energy was low. They were not stopping the run, and offensively they were not run blocking.
Right.
And they didn't have Damian Harris in this game. I know running backs don't matter, but still, Damian Harris is objectively better than Ramondre Stevenson, and they were giving Brandon Bolden tosses on 3rd and 2. Go back to that drive. The drive where Jonnu Smith takes a first down. They get called because of the legal man downfield. Then they take the delay of game, take it to 2nd 19.
Right.
Then they run the ball to go into 3rd and 16, and on that play, they stall. From there, the Colts don't score. Then the Patriots get the ball back. They run some bad plays again. They toss it on 3rd and 2 to Brandon Bolden. Blocked punt. They go down 14-0. Mac Jones red zone interception. They lose that game.
Don't we just think like the Patriots were just overrated to begin with? I mean, we were all saying this every single week. We're like, oh my goodness, they're at the top of the market against the Titans, and they go and cover against the Titans. Oh, they're at the top of the market against the Bills, and then there's kind of that weird game where they cover against the Bills. And now, like, no one, like, they were not even favored last night. They were 2.5-point underdogs. I think people who build narratives in the NFL were saying, oh, this is the one seed, this is the best team in the NFL. Oh, who wants to face the Patriots? But like the markets were saying, well, no, like this is kind of like a team that's just as good as the Colts, right? 2.5-point underdogs on the road.
Patriots are favored on a neutral field, though, don't you think? I think the Patriots are a better football team than the Colts.
Yeah, but like it was 2.5, right? So like, and home field advantage is in 2.5 in the NFL. So I think it's basically a pick 'em on a neutral field against the Colts, which I think if you take a step back preseason and say, oh, this Colts team with all of the advantages we're talking about, is going to be a pick 'em on a neutral field against a rookie quarterback, Bill Belichick in year 2 of kind of this rebuild. Like, I think everybody would take it. It's just the way that like the whole season was strung together where we're kind of disappointed in them now, when in reality, like expectations just were like not linear for them.
I had one more comment on the Colts before we jump. The Colts, in my opinion, yes, it was a huge win. Mm-hmm. Yes, you're seeing them as playoff contenders now, but you look at the top 4 teams in the AFC, in my opinion, that are actually deep postseason contenders: Chiefs, Bills, Chargers, and I have one more team in there. Chiefs, Bills, Chargers. I have one more team.
Possibly Bills. Yeah,
Bills.
Bills got to get in first.
And Patriots, Bills, Chargers, Chiefs. I don't see the Colts beating any of those 4 teams in the postseason.
Let's keep in mind, that was by far Wentz's worst game of the year. That was the most he's looked like the 2020 version of himself this whole season. We had that ugly game in San Francisco and the monsoon and all that as well. But yeah,
we've gotten rid of the monsoon.
Plenty of mistakes out there. But I don't know if we can say that the Patriots are better than the Colts. I mean, the most recent example we have says that they aren't. And that was when Wentz completed 5 freaking passes.
Yeah.
Like, you would have assumed that. Again, what everyone loves to say, Patriots are the only team in the NFL that takes away the opponent's strength, the best option. Bill Belichick's the only guy that focuses on that in the history of football.
No, he's just better at it than everybody else.
And they couldn't stop Jonathan Taylor. So the fact that you got nothing from the rest of your good defensive performance, but we expect that the fact the passing game was a 0, and they still got a win that really wasn't all that close throughout the game. I thought that was incredibly impressive.
So let's look at the AFC playoff picture. Austin mentioned the guys that he thinks are contenders here. We've got the Chiefs now, number 1 in the AFC after all this time. It's just so funny. I can't help but laugh at it. We had so many talks about, are the Chiefs terrible? Are they mailing it in? Here they are. 14 games in, they are the number 1 seed. We got the Titans right behind them. Patriots at number 3 now. Ravens at number 4. Man, that wild card for the AFC, 5, 6, 7 right there. Colts, Chargers, Bills. Those are some dangerous teams, I think, when it comes to playoff time. What really stands out there from you guys when you look at the playoff picture as it is today?
I just want to state that, look, we have 7 teams there. That's good. I'm going to see 15 on all the playoff picture graphics.
Oh, right. So we're narrowing it down. So you like the fact that
we're going to talk about 7. Broncos, Bengals. Those are 2 teams that are in the hunt here. That, like, I think are legitimate teams where if we saw them play in January, we're not all like throwing up, right? Like, they're fine. It's not like the NFC, but like there's a team like the Buffalo Bills, who AFC title game last year, who's just a couple bad games away from not even being in there. The Colts rebounded. We all forget that they were 0-3, and then you look at the 3 losses they've had since then. Talking about a overtime loss to the Titans, an overtime loss to the Ravens, and then a Bucs loss where they had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Like, the Colts could they could be in it now, but the Titans have like a kind of a not a comfortable lead, but like 2-game tiebreaker plus an easy schedule. That's one that could sneak up on people. I think the Titans, the range of outcomes is the 1 seed or wild card like that, and it could go that way, and that one stands out to me.
We got 3, 7, and 6 teams on the bubble: the Bengals, the Broncos, and the Browns that aren't in the playoff picture right now. Colts were 7-6 before last night. Obviously now they're 8-6 and they're in the playoff picture for it. What do we think about those teams there? You touched on it a little bit with the Bengals and the Broncos, but what about the Browns really quick? Anybody believe in? They are right there, obviously. If a couple of games go a different way, we could very well still see the Browns in the playoffs, given everything that we've talked about.
I think any of those three teams can obviously sneak in to the playoffs, but again, not buying any of those teams as deep playoff contenders. I think they are more flawed than the Indianapolis Colts, even. At least the Indianapolis Colts, like you said, Eberflus, a running game, it's having that offensive line having a lot of success. With the Bengals, Achilles heel there is obviously Zach Taylor. They do not leverage Joe Burrow as much as they should. Mm-hmm. The Browns are battered with injuries, and Baker Mayfield has struggled even when healthy. And then the Broncos are in between quarterbacks most of the weeks, and their defense has played well, but I think the quarterback position and their game is just not up to par.
The Broncos have the weirdest, like if they lose this week, they're like 6 or 7% to make the playoffs. So this is a big game for them. But like I do think of those three teams, they have the fewest weaknesses. It's just that their strengths are not that great, right? Whereas like with the Bengals,
weakness is quarterback.
Yeah.
Right?
Whereas with the Bengals, like if Joe Burrow gets hot, like not that much else matters, right? And with the Browns from 2 through 53, when healthy, when not COVID stricken, are very good. Obviously, Mayfield limits them so much, and the COVID thing is a huge deal for them. And if they lose some of these games, it's just like they face a Vegas team this week that's not a great team, but it's a team that can beat them. Mm-hmm. And I think they're the kind of team that loses to a team like the Raiders.
Let's take a look at the remaining schedules of these three teams, and we can throw in the Colts and we can throw in the Bills as well. This is kind of down the stretch, right? These are the teams that we have remaining. Obviously, the Colts face off against New England. They got the win there, so that's huge for them. But when you are looking at this, that's who the Bengals have left. They're at Denver, then face Baltimore, Kansas City, and then at Cleveland to end the season. Broncos, Cincinnati, at Las Vegas, at Los Angeles Chargers, and then Chiefs to end the season. That might be interesting depending on what's going on with the 1 seed with the Chiefs. Could be a win for the Broncos. Could be an easier win, if you will. Browns, Bills. The Bills one is the one that I'm really honing in on because we talked about the Browns, obviously, but Bills, they got the Carolina Panthers. They go to New England. They've got Atlanta, and then they end it with the New York Jets, which you're hoping is a dub for them. What do you guys think about the Bills' schedule down the stretch?
Well, if we look at all these teams, other than probably the Chiefs at 10-4, like who do we think is the most scary team if everything is clicking? It's probably the Buffalo Bills. And we kind of saw it in both halves in that Buccaneers game. Like when Josh Allen is clicking, nobody can really stop this offense. And despite losing Tre'Davious White, amongst other pieces, we still have seen this defense play a high level of football going into the later months of the year. So that's my thing. Like if we're just looking at pure upside out of these groups, I think if the Bills can bring their A game, they can take down anyone.
I think I agree with you. Let's look at the NFC. Let's take a look at the other conference here. And Packers, now the number 1 seed in the NFC. Buccaneers at number 2. Cardinals at number 3. All three of those teams now tied at 10-3. We've got the Cowboys at 9-4 right after that. And then the wildcard teams, we've got Rams, 49ers, and the Washington football team. That cruise, that Sam Monson cruise is still there.
Is that real?
They're 6-7. That's a misprint, I believe.
Oh, is it?
They lost last week to the Dallas.
Okay.
But at the same time,
the cruise is still on. I think the cruise is still on. It's just okay. They might not be in the playoff picture. What do we think about that there? Especially those teams at the top. Those three teams: Bucks, Cardinals, Packers, vying for that 1 seed, vying for that playoff bye. What do we think about that, guys?
They're all good teams, right? Like that. I think that's like the hard part is like if you're asking the question like which one of these teams is the better team, like it depends on the day, right? Like Arizona can beat the Rams on the road. But then they could also lose to a injury-stricken Packers team. Mm-hmm. The Packers, can lose to the Minnesota Vikings, right? But then they could also, beat up the LA Rams. And then you have a Bucs team who I think everybody's going to believe the Bucs are the favorite here, and the betting markets believe so. But they're also a team that's lost to the Washington football team and also lost to the Saints with Trevor Sikkema. So every one of these teams is like imperfect, but I think better than what you look at the other side of the ledger with the AFC. Like I think those three teams, and then Dallas is one where I think Rams, Cowboys, if you want to like say like what's the most likely first round matchup in the playoffs this year, I think Dallas versus LA is like the most likely one by a country mile because you just don't see a path for the Rams to win the NFC West. And Dallas is going to win the NFC East, but probably not going to get one of the top 3 seeds.
What about the bubble teams? I feel like I know the answer to this question, but we've got the Vikings, the Eagles, the Falcons, and the Saints kind of all hanging around doing what Ian was saying. They get to see their name in that little in the hunt graphic, but Are we really believing in any of those teams, even if they sneak into the playoffs? What do you guys think?
I think if any of those teams, and I know maybe Eric hates this call, but I think the Vikings are probably my favorite team. My favorite 6-7 team that could sneak into the back end there at the 7 seed. I think the football team, seriously flawed. Heineke, I've been on this rant before. Heineke is a roller coaster, right? Everyone's like, oh, I love rooting for a roller coaster. He's like Ryan Fitzpatrick. 4 games in his career has he graded over 70.
He's one of those roller coasters that's like made out of wood.
But he's not a roller coaster. That's the thing.
Yeah.
People are wrong. Yeah. People are wrong. He's not a roller coaster. He's as flat as ice. I mean, this has not been a roller coaster career. He has 2 games where he graded well in that postseason stretch where we saw him stretch out and Heineke became a legend. Chase Young's point on his back. Since then, he has 2 games graded over 70. Taylor Heineke isn't good. It's fun to root for a guy that's from Old Dominion with a funny name and was not drafted highly. The Washington football team needs to move on from him. He's not a deep postseason
He pissed me off so bad last week because he's rolling out of the pocket. He pulls like prime Mike Vick, go deeper Terry McLaurin.
And he underthrows him.
By 20 yards, and now Terry McLaurin's in a concussion protocol. Like, come on, man, know your limitations.
That was the most holiday season family football game thing of all time. Your uncle's playing all-time Q. He's doing like a fake RPO with no one next to him, clearly just to be in rhythm. Rolls out, points at one of your cousins to go deep, launches it 20 yards short.
A wounded duck.
And he's just like, nah, I'm getting warmed up.
It's the guy at the Y playing basketball that like rises up to try to dunk, and he can't touch the rim, and like he falls on his face, before. And then he calls a foul, and they're like, okay.
To close my point, Kirk Cousins has graded well. That football team, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, I like them as a 7 seed to shake things up. Football team goes in, they're going to be like 10-point dogs against whoever they play.
The Vikings are the most likely team to melt down and not make the playoffs out of this group. They are the most likely team in that group to give the 2 seed a game.
Is that analytically backed? Are you saying meltdown? Is it meltdown there? Is that the numbers, or are you just saying that?
Like the Vikings have like a 25% chance to make the playoffs.
Okay.
So like it is not likely because there's so much. Like last season at this time, or a little bit earlier, they were 6-6. And I believe the Bears were 3-7 or something like. Or I have to get them all straightened out. But like a 3-7 Bears team on a 6-game losing streak came back and hawked them down for that last playoff spot. Like that is that Sam had a tweet. I mean, he's not here, so we can make fun of him. But he was like, "Do we really need to see 4-9 teams and 5-8 teams?" I'm like, "Have you seen the Vikings try to secure a playoff spot in your life?" Like. So, yeah, I agree with Austin. Among the teams, like they obviously have the goods to go on the road and win against a highly seeded team. But, like, I mean, they just literally cut a starting corner for, like, complaining on the during a practice. So, to me, I think the team that ends up making it out of this group is going to be Philadelphia. Like, we just saw this last night with the Colts. Like, the league is trending towards kind of being softer, right? Like, playing too high and throwing the ball out and, like, and teams that sort
generation.
of like teams that sort of
we're all soft.
Urban Meyer just catching another.
You and Urban Meyer out here.
Urban Meyer catching another stray. But like in the teams that kind of like are pesky right now that aren't good teams, like the Colts, I think are a good team, but they're more pesky because of style of play. Yeah. The Eagles win at the line of scrimmage. And they have a quarterback who has a unique skill set. And I don't think that that's obviously the way to build a team long term to win Super Bowls. But I think right now, if you just like throw them all into a stew, they're probably the team that's going to be, the best moving forward.
I like that. I think Vikings, Eagles over Washington football team. And I think you get either of those teams in. You look at those 7 teams in the NFC. That's a hotly contested NFC with like legitimately 4 to 5 deep postseason contenders. AFC, look back at that picture. Titans are the 2 seed. Right, seriously flawed, reeling without Derrick Henry.
I mean, even the Chiefs are seriously flawed.
They're one of the hottest teams in the NFL, and they have Patrick Mahomes. Ravens also struggling. Tyler Huntley has played the last 2 games. If Lamar Jackson plays today, he's banged up. Like there are teams in the AFC that are 2-4 that you're not even counting on going deep. Where the NFC, it's like Packers, Bucks, Cardinals, Cowboys, Rams, like all have competent quarterback play. That's what's moving them forward.
Well, with that, competent quarterback play, sure, but we have Brady and Rodgers. I think we all agree they're kind of in their own tier. Between Kyler, Dak, and Stafford, we've seen highs, we've seen lows from all of them. I know a lot of lows for the latter. But out of that group, like who do we think maybe could take down, the end of the world boss being Rodgers or Brady in there? Because I think Kyler has probably played the best, most consistently.
Right.
But now he's not going to have DeAndre Hopkins until the NFC Championship.
I'm in on Dak, man. I like the Dallas Cowboys, and I like when they're healthy. Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and if they can just figure out how to get Tyron Smith on the field, this Cowboys offense is good. Dak Prescott's good. And that's enough for me. That's enough for me to legitimately go to Lambeau and take him down.
Yeah, Dak to me is a little bit too oscillatory for my liking, but his highs are worth it. His highs are worth the contract.
Yeah, that was good. That was
You're
good.
a little too oscillatory for my liking.
This was kind of it wasn't kind of. This was a joke that we had over the last couple of weeks. The win in Lambeau thing. But now the Packers are the 1 seed. So now the Packers have home field advantage as it stands right now. I mean, if we play the rest of the season, if everybody wins out, the Packers are getting the number 1 seed. So now we are actually going to have the real conversation.
I love it.
Who is a win in Lambeau guy? So we have a fun little exercise that we're doing on the screen here. Eric, I think that you'll probably spearhead most of this one because it's different. Right? If the Cardinals get the 1 seed, heck, even if the Bucks get the 1 seed, it's different. Yeah, those are good teams. Okay, you got to go through Tampa, you got to go through Arizona, fine. There's a difference when you got to go through.
Does Arizona even
Lambeau.
have home field advantage?
When you've got to, I don't know.
If they're fans.
Wow, just take strays again. The state of
Retirement
Arizona.
communities are coming after Austin on the show.
So we are going to establish who is a win in Lambeau guy. And Eric, I want you to set the precedent here. Who are some win in Lambeau guys of old? Like, what is it? It's not necessarily the best quarterback. Sometimes it's just that moxie that just like takes over that allows you to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a team. I mean, they're one of the most storied franchises in the NFL. They've been around forever. And 2002 was the first time they lost a home playoff game, right? And that was Michael Vick. 04 was Dante Culpepper.
Okay. Winning Lambeau guys?
I mean, like, and guys, like, those were Pro Bowl quarterbacks back in the day, but they weren't like, amazing NFC quarterbacks. And then from there, it was like Eli Manning winning in 07 and 11. And
Eli Manning is without question
a win in Lambeau guy.
A win in Lambeau.
I mean, like, Eli Manning has like just enough awareness, but like lacks the awareness to know that he shouldn't win in Lambeau, right? Like, he's just kind of like stupid good in that way. Same with Brady.
Eli has beaten Favre in Lambeau.
Rodgers in
Lambeau. Yeah. And Brady in the Super Bowl twice.
Both years, yeah. I mean, like that. Yeah, I mean, the guy's awareness
Hall of Famer.
is just good enough to win in Lambeau. Yeah, and then it was Kaepernick in 13 won there, and then I believe, and then it was Brady. Like, and
right.
to me, like.
Right.
So that sort of shows it's relatively rarefied air.
Okay,
Brady's
so who could we add to that group here with the guys that are on the table? So like we're talking Brady, Kyler, Dak, Stafford, Jimmy G, Kirk Cousins, Jalen Hurts, Matt Ryan, like all these guys I think
Stafford
are in the
has won in Lambeau, but like the Lions went from 1991 to 2015 without winning in the state of Wisconsin, right? So the Stafford has a win there, but it's taken a lot of. I mean, it's like Austin on Saturday. So it's a lot of shots.
I think Dak
a couple successes.
Dak got one as a rookie as well.
All right, let's start with Brady. Is Brady a win in Lambeau guy?
Of course. I mean,
okay. All right. Move him up. Move him up on the list. Yeah. Brady's going to be a win in Lambeau guy. What about Kyler? Do you think Kyler's a win in Lambeau guy?
I do. I think Kyler's nails. Yeah, I think Kyler.
You think he's a win in Lambeau guy?
Yeah,
wow.
Kyler's
Okay. All right. So we're dragging.
Can I ask a question?
No.
Is number 5 down there in the Rams jersey? Is that Charlie Whitehurst?
No, it's Blake Bortles.
Oh, okay. I'm just making sure.
Right? Is that Blake Bortles?
I don't know.
Is that Bortles?
I don't know who number 5 is, but he's a win in Lambeau guy for me.
Is it like Tyrod Taylor?
No. 5 in the Chargers jersey. No. 5 in the Rams jersey.
All the way to the right.
To the right.
2nd row.
That's Bortles.
That's Bortles. Is Bortles a win in Lambeau guy? Okay. All right.
Tyrod pre-lung puncture?
I just had to make sure.
Pre-lung puncture. That is Tyrod pre-lung puncture.
Okay. What about Dak Prescott, winning Lambeau guy?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, all right. So we've got 3 straight winning Lambeau guys here. Stafford, are you going no?
No. Stafford's not a winning Lambeau guy.
It's just not.
I agree.
Stafford throws 4 picks in the playoffs in Lambeau.
I don't think he's not going to throw 4 picks, but
He might throw 3.
Stafford would be out of the league if he didn't play in a dome for the first part of his career.
Shut up!
I'm kidding.
That's like the Steve Palazzolo.
I kind of stuck that take in there just to see how it feels. Obviously not great.
Not great.
Here's a couple that aren't. Jimmy G's not a win in Lambeau guy.
Okay,
Jimmy G's
not a win in
at
Lambeau
Candlestick in the NFC title game.
Jimmy G's barely a win guy.
That's true. Okay, all right.
Daniel Jones is certainly not, of course.
Okay, Daniel Jones, we're making him.
Go down the list here.
Now here's
Kirk Cousins. Kirk
Cousins is interesting because he won there the last time he played there, but there's no fans in the stands. He also
that doesn't count.
That
doesn't even count.
He also had a tie game his second career start as a Viking.
Also, January Lambeau hits different.
Way different.
That's what I'm saying.
It's going to be
like Kirk's
cold.
Will Kirk win a playoff game in his whole career besides the Saints one? Will he win another playoff game?
No.
Well, so then by definition, containment, he's not going to win in Lambeau.
I love that.
All right, so Kirk Cousins, not a win in Lambeau guy. I was not going to let you sneak him on the list.
I think Matt Ryan is. What do you think?
Bite your tongue.
Matt Ryan voted the Packers in the 16 NFC title game.
I think.
I know, but I'm saying like.
Look, okay, let's evolve this conversation. Maybe not Matt Ryan in like his current form, but even if you go back just a little bit, like a year or two, I think Matt Ryan's a winning Lambeau.
No way. He's the classic dome quarterback who can't play in Lambeau.
I don't know. Matt Ryan would not have a career.
Matt Ryan on the bottom.
Eric, it's your call. It's your call.
I think right now the answer is no. He's certainly not a winning Lambeau right now.
We can continue the show.
Josh, well, are we only looking at NFC quarterbacks?
Yeah, I think we were only looking at NFC.
Okay.
Just to be clear, Baker's not.
Rodgers is clearly a winning Lambeau guy. Taysom Hill is not a winning Lambeau guy. I don't care how much they establish.
Is that Jordan Love, bottom left, third row?
I mean, so far he's not a winning Lambeau guy.
He's not. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Jordan Love's a winning Lambeau
Tricky
guy.
one. Could Jalen Hurts be a? Could he get there? Just based off of all the stuff you're talking about.
Like I don't mean to make this comparison because I think it's a little off. But like when Vic went into Lambeau in 2002, he was not like a polished quarterback at that time. I think Hurts has very much earned some respect this year.
If there was a middle tier of keep me interested in Lambeau, I think Hurts would be right there. Keep me interested in Lambeau.
What about Russ?
I'm starting to get
wait. Russell Wilson. This is the last one we're doing because Russ is still on.
Russ is absolutely a winning Lambeau guy.
Thank you.
I think.
Yeah, he has to be.
For sure.
He just needs to pass it.
He has to be.
So half the NFC
So we've got Brady, Kyler, Dak, Rodgers, obviously, and
Jameis
Russ.
too. We got to get Jameis in there. Get Jameis up in the win.
Jameis has lost his only game in Lambeau, though.
That doesn't mean he's not.
I was there for that one.
Oh, okay.
I was there for that one.
That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, Jameis is actually a win in literally every situation kind of a guy. Also, a lose in every situation kind of guy.
It goes with, put him on the top.
The actual roller coaster.
We need to have 2 Jameis pictures. That's the actual roller coaster. All right, so there we go. Those are our win in Lambeau guys. We've got 5 on there, or 6 if you count Jameis. So what I want to do, though, we've talked a lot about teams that are making the playoffs, teams that are good, teams that have aspirations to still win the Super Bowl. But there's a handful of teams now that I kind of want to get to for what's next. These teams aren't making the playoffs. Not only are they not making the playoffs, there's some question marks moving forward. I want to start with the Carolina Panthers. What is next for the Carolina Panthers? Carolina Panthers traded a second-round pick for Sam Darnold last offseason. They tried to go bargain shopping for a franchise quarterback. It didn't work because it almost never works, okay? In doing so, they passed up on a quarterback in the draft. Now here they are. Sam Darnold's been hurt. When he's been on the field, he's been bad. They have Cam Newton. They have P.J. Walker. They're rotating that quarterback room in there.
They got rid of Joe Brady.
They've already fired Joe Brady. The defense isn't playing well as they were before. Matt Rule's answers to these questions are kind of not as confident as you want. What is next for the Panthers? What do the Panthers need to do this offseason, or what does Matt Rule need to do to save his job at this point?
The front office, if they have any faith in Matt Rule, needs to say, buddy, we need to reset in 2022. This is not going to work. We need to go full Lions with this thing. We need to freaking tank, take Sam Darnold to 1-16 or whatever the games are going to be in 2022, and try and reset to get a quarterback in 2023, whether it's Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud. And in the draft, trade back. Don't double down on this thing. Don't trade up for a guy that, we know this 2022 quarterback class is not as good as last year's. It's not even as good as maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Sit this thing out. You've already pot committed to Sam Darnold. You agreed to that 5th-year option on the trade. Don't compile mistakes. My old head coach in high school talked about all the time. Don't compound mistakes. You made a mistake in Sam Darnold. You need to now put yourself in a position. The quickest path to a Super Bowl, in my opinion, is going full Lions in 2022, trading back in the first round, grabbing picks, trying to get a younger roster, build in the trenches, all these things, and then hope that Sam Darnold leads you to what will likely be a 2-win, 3-win season next year, and then move forward.
But Rule didn't survive that, though, right?
No, but I'm saying the front office, if you hired Rule, right? Was it supposed to turn this to Carolina Panthers around?
And the general manager there was sort of like that's all the whole problem with going head coach first and then general manager the following year, where the head coach kind of gets to pick the general manager, right? So like it's kind of like an incongruence here. But the problem with, I think, with what you're saying, Austin, which I agree with to an extent, the issue is very concentrated. It's at 2 places. It's the most important places on the football team, but it's head coach and it's quarterback. Because I actually think this roster can win if the quarterback position has a pulse.
Defense is legit.
The defense is legit. They have good players. They've gone out and gotten guys like C.J. Henderson in trades, Stephon Gilmore in trades. They also have Dante Jackson. They Cameron Curl,
Burns.
Yeah. And they have linebackers in Shaq Thompson. They have Hassan Reddick to go with Brian Burns. Like, they're a good football team. And then the offensive line's, a disaster. But again, like, you took a quarterback who can't overcome those things.
Right.
And you have a head coach who at this point has not shown the ability to overcome things. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what you do other than like replace those two men, because if you do that, it's not as big of a rebuild as you think.
My rebuttal to that is this defense has talent. No one's arguing that. Jeremy Chin, Brian Brown, Sam Rick, whatever. They ranked outside the top 10 EPA per play and 25th in pressure rate. They have a good pass rush. Yeah. No, they don't. Like, they're not getting the best of this talent. But if the front office set expectations for Matt Rule to win with Sam Darnold, they're dumb. And Matt Rule's out. But if the front office set expectations to turn the Panthers around, the quickest path to doing that is tanking and actually getting a good quarterback.
I agree with you.
Or they don't believe in Matt Rule and they let him go.
I don't know if we get to that point, right? Because I think a lot of fans, a lot of people would say, like, hey, this current plan isn't going anywhere. Let's tank. Let's get better draft picks. But head coach isn't going to want to do that. He's going to get fired.
Well, but if the front office is setting expectations that if you don't go win 6, 7, 8 games in 2022, the whole thing's a wrap anyway. Like, then Matt Rule's going to make short-term decisions
that's
to
why
improve
I think
this
the people
roster,
are in trouble.
dump a ton of money in free agency, and this whole thing's a joke. Like, that's a joke.
They're going to turn into a team like Minnesota or New York,
exactly.
like, where they're just like, you can't win with all these short-term decision-making issues.
What about trade for Jimmy G and try and bring him in? Like, that's what
there's one really important thing we're missing. We got to free DJ Moore. This guy is on pace to be the next Andre Johnson, Allen Robinson, talented receiver. With one terrible quarterback.
We got to stop talking about Andre Johnson, though, because Andre Johnson was still putting up numbers.
He was, but with bad quarterbacks. Like, just look at every quarterback throw him a pass. So I think right now it's between DJ Moore and Terry McLaurin. Free one of them.
It's true. That's true. All right, what about the Jets? I want to touch on the Jets really quick. What is next for the Jets? Are the Jets fine even? Like, is this kind of just part of the lumps that you're going to take when you're rebuilding this way, or are you concerned about the Jets?
The number one thing the Jets need to do is the same thing the Giants should have done with Daniel Jones, is throw the kitchen sink and try and figure out if their quarterback's good. And they need to do everything in their power to improve the offensive line, improve the receiving core, and if it doesn't pan out in year 2, and it doesn't pan out, you got to cut the core. That's the number one thing when you have a rookie quarterback is you got to find out if he's good. It doesn't matter if you win games. You could lose every game, but if you find out he's good, you put yourself in a good position. They did not do a great job of that. They've had some injuries with Mekhi Becton on the offensive line. Right. They've had some injuries at receiver. They tried to, right, with Corey Davis, Elijah Vera Tucker. Let's find out if Zach Wilson's good.
Right.
You have to go into this offseason where they have a lot of money in free agency, spend so much that you can put Zach Wilson into a near ideal position and find out if he's good. Yeah, and if you can't, and if he doesn't rise to the occasion, you got to cut the cord and make a play in 2023.
Yeah, you have to cut bait quickly. And this is like somebody who likes Zach Wilson coming out. Like, this is scary because they had Becton, right? They had Van Rotten, and they had Vera Tucker. They had Elijah Moore. They added Corey Davis, right? Like. And they put a LaFleur into place too, right? And LaFleur has looked terrible. And LaFleur has looked mostly bad, except for the Mike White games, where it did look like he gave Mike White a chance to give them a chance to have some good offense.
Right.
The defense is terrible. That's another thing. When you look at the talent on the defensive side of the ball, it's just not there at all. But the problem is Zach Wilson hasn't even put them in position to be like, oh, geez, if they even had a good defense, they could win these games. Yeah. And I think that's the real scary part. I think that they should, as Austin said, stay the course on offense, go one more year with Wilson, be prepared to cut bait if he stinks. Because I think right now all the evidence suggests he stinks. But we've seen that before. But they also have to give him a defense too, because their talent on the defensive side of the ball is absent.
All right,
he had the Titans game. And that was when we actually saw some of those flashes of him getting out of the pocket, creating off script. But we haven't even seen that happening all that often. And then you look at him, pulling up these stats. First read, quarterbacks targeting their first read, and that player is deemed open. By far the worst quarterback in the NFL, any stat you want to look at. So even when things have been working out for him, it's just been so hard each and every time. So, one more year, I guess. But to Eric's point, I don't know what you can take away from this first audition.
It's not even for me, and I'm sorry, we're running long on Jets here. But it's not even that, you want to go one more year and give him another shot. You can't be a team that creates excuses for your rookie quarterback or your quarterback on a rookie contract.
Yeah, right.
That's what the Giants have done for 4 years.
I mean, that's you have to be brutally honest about a quarterback that you pick in the first round, especially in the top 10. You have to be brutally honest.
Because failure's cheap.
Yeah.
Failure's cheap. That's the whole advantage of this thing is back in the day when you took Bradford at 1 and you gave him $50 million guaranteed, you had to kind of. Yeah.
Right.
Failures, look, the Cardinals traded up for.
Right, it's a rookie deal.
Traded up for Josh Rosen. He stinks. And it's just move on. And no one's sitting here being like, God, man, like they're still saddled with the Josh Rosen deal.
Right,
they go and get a second-round pick. They move the hell on.
You got to figure it out quick.
Again, failure's cheap. And like, and again, like I think that's why the Darnold thing makes zero sense for the Panthers because taking, like, let's say they took, let's say they took Mac Jones at 8. Or they took Justin Fields at 8, and the guy was horrendous. You could literally move on the next year because failure is so inexpensive at the position now.
And losing on a number 1 overall pick or a top 10 pick it will set you back, but is not as franchise setting back as it was back in the day when Jamarcus Russell signing $60 million.
Correct. Right. Yeah. What sets you back?
What is set you back is committing. It's committing to a guy because you drafted them that highly. That is what sets you back.
Even just picking up the second-year option, like for Sam Darnold, right? I mean, you look at a situation now where Matt Rule's in a must-win scenario, and they've got Darnold on the books for $18 million. Yeah, you notice it. Failing when you handle it right can definitely be cheap. I want to get Kendall involved here because I want to hear what the chat's thinking. Anytime that we bring up teams that aren't playing well, I don't know. There's always a chance that people could be going crazy. Kendall, what's been going on in the chat so far this show?
They got a lot of questions for you guys.
Oh, okay.
So I just think they want to know your layout just of what you guys think this weekend is going to turn into from that segment. Like who's going to come out on top? The Steelers. Anything like that.
Okay, all right. Who do we think is going to be the big winner? I mean, I think the Colts are going to be the big winners of the weekend for sure because they were able to get a game up. Chiefs, you're right, from Thursday night. We didn't even touch on that a lot, but that Chiefs-Chargers game was awesome.
Yeah, let's go.
If we get that over the next 5 or 6 years, man, I'm really pumped about that.
To me, the biggest leverage game of the weekend is clearly Cincinnati,
100%.
Denver. Yeah. Like whoever wins that game has a legitimate shot of making the playoffs in the AFC. In the case of Cincinnati, a legitimate shot at winning the division. And then I think secondarily to it, this is sneaky, because I think everybody's going to look at Pittsburgh versus Tennessee. Like, I'm sorry, Pittsburgh, like, it's over. Like, the Pittsburgh Steelers, even if they win, like, don't really have a good shot to make the playoffs. They stink.
It's one of those teams that's, like, in the hunt. We don't believe it.
But you actually, like, circle around every single path for them. It's like they run into a brick wall. But the one that's very interesting, and it's a 9-point spread, so chances are they're just going to get blown out. If Atlanta goes into San Francisco and wins, it muddies the waters in the NFC so much because you have San Francisco at 7-7 with the tiebreaker over some of the teams, including like Minnesota and so forth. You have Atlanta at 7-7, but like no tiebreakers over teams like Washington and that group. And then you have whoever wins Washington and Philly is also at 7-7, and then a jumbled mess beneath there that can all still. Yeah, and the Vikings are going to be in Chicago. They're probably going to win 7-7 as well. So to me, that game is such like an interesting point for 2 playoff spots in the NFC.
You are previewing some previews that we're getting into, and we're going to answer a lot of the questions that I'm sure the chat had with who's going to come out on top this weekend, who we think is going to win, where the playoff picture is going. Before we get to that, I've got to remind people that Western and Southern is teaming up with PFF's very own Chris Collinsworth to get you ahead on your financial and fantasy scoreboards. You can ask Chris all sorts of questions, maybe about his playing days, some behind-the-scenes Sunday Night Football stuff with Al, or you could also ask Western and Southern some financial questions, how you get to your financial goals, whatever they are. Every question that you ask, also, I just want to throw this in there, get you a ticket to maybe win a catered dinner for the big game at the end of February. How you ask the questions, any questions really, you go to westernsouthern.com/ask Chris. That's westernsouthern.com/ask Chris. All of the questions will be answered on Chris Collinsworth's podcast as well as Western and Southern's Instagram. With Western and Southern, you can rest assured on game day. First game that we're going to preview here, Packers, Ravens. I would say, speaking of win at Lambeau, but the game's in Baltimore, so I couldn't even have that as a good transition. We'll get to another one. I threw it in there anyways. Packers in this one as the road team. Favored by 6.5. I believe it was 6.5. It's 6.5.
7 now.
7. So it's up to 7 now. Obviously, I think the big storyline is Lamar Jackson. Is he playing? But shoot, even when Lamar Jackson has been out there, it has not looked pretty for the Ravens. They still currently have that number 4 spot in the AFC playoffs. Austin, I'm going to start with you. What do you think about this game, what it could mean, who you think is going to win?
At 6.5 earlier in the week, 97% of the cash bet on this game was on the Green Bay Packers. It's now out to 7, and I still am riding with Green Bay to cover the 7. This team is objectively better than the Baltimore Ravens, and Lamar Jackson, even if he does play, one, he hasn't played all that well. He struggled against the blitz, he struggled against man coverage, and also will be hurt, right? Like bone bruise, you're coming into this game a little banged up anyway. And then the other piece here, you remember week 1, Green Bay against New Orleans, Jameis Winston, and they got absolutely blown out. Throw that game out, burn the tape. Aaron Rodgers is 5th in PFF grade, and this defense is 9th in EPA per play allowed. It is legit an awesome team. It's deserving of the number 1 seed. The Green Bay Packers should roll on the road.
Yeah, and they've been a team that since that game is 10-1-1 against the spread, and for a large part because the market underestimates them. Like last week, they opened as 12.5-point favorites against the Bears. That got bet down to 11 on Sunday Night Football. People were betting that ratty-ass Chicago Bears team on the road as underdogs, and they looked good at first. They were up 10.
Jakeem Grant.
Yeah, Jakeem Grant. The issue is this time, though, when you're thinking about this against number, Austin said it was 6.5. It was 4.5 on open, right? This thing has been bet up to 7. This is the first time in a while that the Packers have been the preferred side of the sharp bettors, and a lot of the reason why is I think that they're, to Austin's point, either think Hundley's going to play or when they think Lamar's going to play, he's going to struggle. And this is a guy like a 90 passer rating against clean pockets this year, which is dreadful. This is a humongous game for the Ravens from a what happens if perspective. If they lose this game, which again, they're underdogs to win, they have just a 55% chance of even making the playoffs in the AFC and a 31% chance to win the division for the first time since 2019. If they were to somehow win, it only goes up to 86%. This team has a tough road. Every single team in the AFC North has a tough road ahead. And to me, like this is one where if they were to lose, everybody that bet their season win total under, by the way, wins the ticket. So again, this has been a rough year for the Ravens, who I think have won more games than people believe, but are still in a tough position.
I think there's so much confidence with the line continuing to move towards Green Bay, even with uncertainty with Lamar Jackson. Like some reports earlier in the week were like, hey, yeah, he's going to be banged up, but he's going to play. And yet the line continues to move. I'm going to feel stupid saying this, but I feel like even if Lamar plays, like he might not even be their best option at this point. When you look at the stats from week 10, Packers, 5th highest passing grade in the NFL. Ravens, dead last. So in week 10, that's with a healthy Lamar Jackson. Yeah. If this guy is limping in any way from this injury, now you're fully taking away that rushing threat of Lamar Jackson, and you're just leaning on a passing attack that's been dead last in the NFL. So I feel like an idiot saying that if Lamar Jackson plays, it might even be better for Green Bay, but that's how I feel right now, because if Lamar's going to be limited mobility-wise, and you're just having him pass, we've seen how out of rhythm he has been over the last couple of weeks. I just think it's going to be a nightmare for the Ravens either way.
With or without Lamar, they're going to have trouble moving the football. The Packers are the opposite. I mean, throughout this whole year, they haven't been the most dominant offense. I mean, more like I think their 2019 selves in 2020. Until these last 3 or 4 weeks, they've now scored 31 points in each of their past 3 games. I think at least some of that has come from having not 1 but 2 really great running backs. I know we always say they don't matter in this and that, but Aaron Jones, what he can do in the receiving game, and A.J. Dillon, as Eric likes to say, J stands for January, becomes increasingly harder to tackle each and every week. So, sometimes in these situations, particularly in fantasy, we say, free A.J. Dillon, free this guy, because we want them to just get all the touches, all those fantasy points. But man, Jones and Dillon have been awfully difficult to get to the ground. And it's nice when you have that ability to not only have Aaron Rodgers and Devontae freaking Adams, but we also got 2 running backs that can help take over again.
Yeah, they're such a good team when they're playing from ahead, because the run game, that's who they want to be. And they're just like, they have Rodgers as sort of like an obviously cherry on top, but they're like the Colts in that way where they get ahead of a team and they can just out physical them with the run game.
One thing we haven't touched on too, and I think it's obviously we want to focus on Rodgers, Aaron Jones, etc. I mean, the Baltimore Ravens defense is reeling. I mean, they are without Marlon Humphrey, obviously.
Right.
Jimmy Smith is out, I think, with COVID. I mean, this is
Marcus Peters
has been gone all season. The pass rush has not been all that good this year. This defense isn't good.
Yeah.
And you go back to some of Harbaugh going for 2 a couple weeks ago. He said it's because we don't have any defensive backs. Yeah. Well, they still don't have any defensive backs. I got to play a full game against Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams.
Falcons at Niners. Another game that I want to preview there because Eric mentioned it. This is a fun little matchup here, especially with the line being what it is, 9.5. San Francisco 49ers are favored by 9.5 at home. I feel like that is a huge huge line. Ian, are you believing in the 49ers that much with an almost double-digit line here over the Falcons?
I think so. We've seen them at full strength. Jimmy G and this entire offense looking a lot better. It's just kind of being a headache in fantasy because we had Deebo Samuel go from number 1 in the league in yards per route run, just balling week after week as a true receiver, getting air yards, like doing more than we've ever seen him do from a pure receiver's perspective. He's more or less playing running back now because he has not had more than 1 catch in a game going all the way back to week 10, I believe. But over his last 4 games, it has been working. I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So, I just don't know if he can keep this up week after week after week. No Elijah Mitchell for at least another game, so maybe he'll have to. But at least when they have Deebo, George Kittle, my God, the things he's doing lately, and Brandon Ayuk out of the Shanahan doghouse. I mean, we always talk about the Chiefs. Like, we know we have Kelsey and Hill, but I think we can add that third option to an offense awfully difficult to stop, and that's what San Fran has right now.
Eric, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that, and I think without, Mitchell was one of the top 5 runners in the league in terms of yards gained on perfectly blocked plays. Like, he has been like that Shanahanian running back, and I think they missed kind of some of that explosiveness last week. But Kittle is sort of that guy that can kind of make up for it with the play-for-play stuff that he has. This is a humongous game, as I said. Like, here are the percentages. Right now, Atlanta is 17% to make the playoffs. San Francisco 73%. With an Atlanta win, Atlanta jumps to 46% to make the playoffs. San Francisco's down to 35%. So that flips the thing completely. Whereas with the San Francisco win, the Falcons are basically eliminated 4%. Right. The Niners are basically a lock 91%. So this is a huge game. And again, look, the Falcons last season were 4-12. Their point differential was -18. They were as good as you can be as a 4-12 team. This year, it's -108 is their point differential, despite being 6-7. So I think people are looking at this Falcons team and rightly saying this team sucks. But sucky teams have beaten good teams in the past, and if it happens, it blows up this entire NFC playoff race.
You mentioned George Kittle, and he has been unbelievable. Over the last 2 weeks, he's played, I think he's 118 snaps, and we have his PFF grade as a 94.4. Insane. And to put that into perspective, the next closest guy, the next closest tight end to him that has played a similar amount of snaps, so over 100 snaps, is Mark Andrews at a 76.5. So George Kittle is almost 20 points higher than the next closest tight end who is used in a similar, I guess, emphasis and volume that he is. And yet Kittle has this far and away elite grade. He's been unbelievable. Back-to-back 100-yard games. I would not want to play the San Francisco 49ers right now. I think they're going to win, but 9.5 points is too many points. So I think the 49ers are going to win. I think the Falcons are going to cover.
Stay with me here.
Yes.
Space Jam situation. Aliens invade.
Which Space Jam?
We got to do a football game to save the planet. We got to start at tight end. I think it's George Kittle for one game. All due respect to Kelsey, Gronk, and these guys. One game we need to win. I think George Kittle is planet Earth's tight end 1. What say you, Eric?
In his current form, yeah, I think so.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, compared to Rob Gronkowski.
I think Pete Kelsey is
not Pete Kelsey. Tomorrow.
I think I would go Kittle.
Tomorrow, Kittle, maybe. Yeah, I mean, look. I'm not gonna. We'll put my worldview on the table here. If the world's on the line, I'm not running the football. So Kelsey's inability to run block is of no concern to me, and so I'm going 10 for not 191 and 2.
What if the aliens are light in the box? What if the aliens are even in the box?
If you can't win by throwing, you don't deserve to have.
I don't think the aliens
don't deserve our planet.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's the running back? I would say Derrick Henry, but he's hurt.
Stop.
It literally doesn't matter.
This is a great segment for this show to build the football team to save the planet.
We're screwed.
But then we just stop after running.
Henry's going to walk out with the aliens, and we're going to be like, oh my gosh,
that makes sense.
Austin has a much kinder disposition than Sam's most of the time, but his disdain for suffering fools on the show is about the same.
All right, Austin, who you got in this game?
So you said 9.5 is too many points.
Yes.
I just don't know why. This Falcons team is awful. Legitimately awful.
Cordell Patterson, MVP.
Matt
Ryan, winning Lambeau guy.
Matt Ryan, over the last 5 weeks, is the 31st ranked quarterback in PFF grade. This defense is 30th in EPA per play.
That.
This offense is 25th in EPA per play. This is a bad football team, not just for the season, but also recently. Over the last 5 weeks, they've been terrible. They can't create separation down the football field. Kyle Pitts is their best option, still a rookie. Only has 1 touchdown on the season, I believe, in fantasy football world. That stinks. Matt Ryan's awful. This 49ers team should roll. If they cover, it'd be a backdoor situation that no one wants to see.
And that 1 touchdown was when the Jets covered him with a defensive lineman.
That's right.
Come on, guys.
All right, Bengals Broncos. This is one that we said has big time AFC playoff implications because both of these teams could still creep into the playoffs here. And Eric, I know that this is your best bet of the week. Is it right?
Yeah, I like over 44 here. It stayed there, which I'm not happy with. You know, for example, we like Niners Falcons over. That's gone up 1.5 points, right? This game here, good weather, kind of 50s, no wind.
Yep.
You have obviously the thin air, which generally speaking plays to overs, but it does play to more field goals sometimes, which are bad. But 44 is just a really low number. When you look at, obviously Joe Burrow's been great. One of the better quarterbacks in all of football this year. Wide receivers for days, right? Running back in Joe Mixon, who has made plays out of the backfield all season, and a bad defense, and a defense that's bad where Denver's good, right? Like Denver runs the football really well. They throw the ball to their backs. And Teddy Bridgewater underneath, I just don't think the Cincinnati linebackers can really cover what they have. So I like over here. I also do like now that the numbers moved out to the Bengals +3.
Right.
I'm going to take the dog here too.
Well, I want to break down that over line a little bit more with our green line tool because I know you are heavy into the green line tool that we have here at PFF. This is an easy, simple way to really get ahead on a lot of your bets, no matter what game it is, whether it's the spread, whether it's the over-under, whether it's the money line. And we see it here right in front of us. This is what it's going to look like. If you have a PFF subscription, you're going to be able to see every single matchup this way. Eric, break down how people should be reading the green line page to get the most out of their bets.
Yeah, absolutely. So you look at the betting odds there, you see where the value is, and actually there's some value on Cincinnati on the money line +133, depending upon what the price is as well, which you can change in the bets tab.
So hold on. We've got one green bubble there on the value for the money line and for the over-under. Yep. Is one bubble out of 3 good, or what is that?
As long as it's green, it's worth betting. And if you click in on the bets part there, you can see sort of what the percentage ends up being. Over 44, which is the third line there, that's a little bit less than a 1% edge. So again, that's something that you really would like. You could also change the price on there. So if you hit the edit right next to it, you could look at something. If it's not -110, let's say your book's offering -105.
Nice.
You can see how much more of a percentage is, because that's, -105, you only need about, 51% or so, to break even. And even now with a flat number like 44, 115 would not be something bettable. 120 would also not be something bettable. So that's actually a recent addition to this tool, which really helps you. Usually at books, it's -110, and that's where our sort of default is. But if your book's offering something else, you can see sort of where the value is. Also beneath there is all the fun props that you can bet. For example, Jamar Chase.
Yep.
If you like over, but you don't like necessarily the Broncos offense, you can bet Chase over receiving yards and still kind of have a very correlated play there.
All right. So, there's plenty of things that you can see on this green line page as well. If you go back to the summary, you could see exactly where the line has been over the last couple of days. You can see the movement right there, where it's been going, what green line's been doing as the line has been moving. I also really like the lineups tab that's right there. If you scroll up a little bit, you can see the lineups tab, and you can see the depth chart for each of those teams. So, if it's a matchup where you go, like if weather's involved or something, you go, oh, okay, like all of a sudden this game is going to get real, ground and pound, they're going to grind it out. You can look and see what we have, the offensive line graded, the defensive line graded, the running backs, whatever it is. If you think it's going to be an air raid attack, boom. Back and forth battles. You can see what the wide receivers are graded against the corners of the other team. You can switch personnels, base, nickel, all that stuff. So it's just a fantastic tool. It's a great way for you guys to get ahead on a lot of your bets. Ian, what do you think about this game? Where do you see this one going?
I'm leaning with the Bengals because I think they can win through the air with Burrow, as we're talking about, and also on the ground. Joe Mixon, he's someone that really going this year, at least in the fantasy world, we were trying to hype him as a top 10 talent because he was going to have all this volume, but even more than just having that volume this year, I think we've seen him emerge as one of the pure rushers in the NFL. A couple times we're watching games on Sunday, he gets in the open field, and it's like, dang, this dude still has some giddy-up. So just in terms of overall PFF rushing grade this year, of course, number one, Cordero Patterson, Kings Stay Kings.
Yeah.
But then Jonathan Taylor, A.J. Dillon, Joe Mixon, and James Conner. So truly top 5 running back in, our PFF rushing grade. Great for Joe Mixon because, he's someone that they did commit to financially a couple years ago. Hasn't always been able to stay healthy. But when he's out there, guys, there's not too many players that are better.
I like the Bengals getting points in this one. I think it's going to be close. I think that just the nature of Teddy Bridgewater as the Broncos quarterback, I think the secondary that the Broncos have, that it's great at limiting deep plays, intermediate passing plays, all those kinds of things, it spells out a really close game. And for that, I'm going to take the Bengals in this one. I was on the Broncos when it was more around like point and a half. I was like, okay, they could overcome that. But Burrow getting the 3 points, I think it's too much for me. I'm going to be taking the
About
Bengals.
8% of games push 3. 8 to 9%. So like that is a reasonable thing. Once you can get to a +3 price, it's worth taking the underdog if you were on the fence at all because of the number of games that land on that number and the thin margin that you need to win bets in the NFL.
Austin, real quick.
I'm still on Denver -3. Joe Burrow is number 2 in PFF grade. This offense he's number 1 over the past 5 weeks. He's been the second best quarterback according to PFF grade behind Tom Brady. The offense is legit. Receivers for days. Their passing attack is awesome. They don't throw. They ranked 24th in pass rate on early downs, and in that game where they lost to the Niners, they went down 20-0 through the first 3 quarters. They threw the ball on 50% of early downs. They clawed back in, throw the ball on 85% of early downs to try and win the game. Zach Taylor is the reason they lose football games. This offense is not going to be aggressive. They're going to again go down to a team that is not as good as them because they do not throw the football. I said I'd buy a Jamar Chase jersey if Zach Taylor throws 55% of early downs, which would rank 18th in the league. Just throw the ball, use your best players. That's all I'm asking. And I don't think they do it.
I mean,
Cincinnati
I don't
with
know
a win.
How much of a punishment is that? I mean, Jamar Chase is cool. You know, you're
number one. It's a win-win.
Cincinnati with a win, 56% to make the playoffs, 35% to win the AFC North. Denver with the win, 32% to make the playoffs. They're kind of eliminating the AFC West after the Chiefs win the other day.
Right.
Cincinnati, 21% to make the playoffs with a loss, just a 14% to win the AFC North. The Denver Broncos basically eliminated with a loss here, 7%.
All right.
Maybe they could throw the ball, the best players too. You give a guy $60 million, I think that kind of constitutes that. Cortland Sutton, when Jerry Jeudy plays this year, is 5th on the Broncos in targets. Albert, I still can't pronounce your last name, is more involved than Cortland Sutton when Jerry Jeudy is on the team. And it's infuriating.
No, it's Akui Bunem.
Akui Bunem. Okay.
I thought Ian was pretty close. I can't pronounce your name. I thought that he was actually pretty close there. No, you were good, folks. Pristine Auction, this is your go-to place for signed sports memorabilia. Austin, if you are going to lose that Cincinnati bet and you want to get a signed Jamar Chase jersey, you can do so over at Pristine Auction. It's a great spot because you can get a lot of steals for a lot of really great pieces of merchandise because it all starts at $1. It's all auction style. So if you use the promo code PFF when you sign up, you're also going to get $10 off whatever it is the first auction that you win. Not just the first one that you bet on, it's going to be the first one that you win. Head on over to Pristine Auction, check out everything that they've got, all the sports memorabilia that you could ever want. It's some fantastic deals. Check them out, pristineauction.com. Last game that we were previewing today is the New Orleans Saints against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the nightcap of Sunday night's slate. Saints, no Sean Payton in this one. Double digits is what they are down here. 11.5, I think, is where that's the last line that I saw. So this is in Tampa. Saints play Tampa tough. Double-digit line. I mean, Ian, what do you think about this one? 11.5.
Here's the thing. With Taysom Hill, they have to play their offense a very specific way, and that is using him like a freaking battering ram. And it really has worked in his 6 career starts at this point. I mean, he's had 3 2-touchdown games. He's eclipsed 100 yards in Week 13 of this season. And we saw Josh Allen go for over 100 yards against his defense last week. But the question is, I think it's pretty clear you still got to respect Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Gabriel Davis, Emmanuel Sanders downfield. The Saints have no one to throw the ball to. Taysom is still playing with this mallet finger injury. And I think it just depends, can they have some semblance of a passing threat? Because if not, we know this Buccaneers front 7, one of the better defenses in the league, consistently stopping the run. If that's all the Saints can do, I would not be surprised if they score 3 points and can't move the ball.
Yeah, and not only that, they're going to be without their top 2 offensive tackles as well. Ryan Ramczyk, Teron Armstead, they are not in this game. I think that's massive when you go up against any team, let alone Tampa, that I think is going to really come after them, knowing that they don't really respect Taysom's arm nearly as much. And so I think this is in the back of the Buccaneers' head as well. The last time the Saints played the Bucs in Tampa, they beat them 38-3. That was the embarrassing loss midway through the year last year. And even though they got the better of them in the playoffs, Tampa ends up going to the Super Bowl. I think they remember what happened the last time they lined up on this field. I think the Bucs are going to look for revenge. I think Tampa's going to cover. With all the injuries, Sean Payton not being there, everything, I think Tampa covers that massive 11.5 line. I really do.
I think we said this before. Interestingly, the 2 years the Bucs won the Super Bowl, the Saints swept them in the regular season both years, which is kind of funny.
So throw this game.
Throw this game, exactly. That's what I think. No, I'm just kidding. But the thing that happened last year in Tampa was the Bucs on the offensive side of the ball got manhandled by the Saints defensive line, right? And Onyemata had 10 pressures. Davenport came back last week. He was really good. The Saints defense is a good unit, right? And I think that's kind of got to be what you look at here. No Antonio Brown still for the Bucs. I think that's the path for New Orleans here. It's to lose something like 21-10. And I think that's very possible. And it's just hard for me to lay that many points when I know that the Saints have good players, at least on one side of the ball. It is tricky without Peyton. Kevin James he's not walking through that door. And you have no wide receivers. You have no quarterback. Kamara's a good football player. I think he can make some plays, but yeah, it's a tough one. I don't think you can bet over in this game if you're also going to bet New Orleans. Like you have to, if you're going to bet New Orleans, it's got to be like a 13-3 type of game.
Austin.
I'm all in on Tampa Bay covering the 11.5, and it's a lot of that is because Kevin James isn't walking through that door. But with the Saints, top 5 defense in EPA per play allowed, they're good. And a lot of people feel that they have Tom Brady's number, they have the Bucs number. I just don't think it matters. I don't think the Saints score. Like, this is going to be such a tough game for the Saints to put points on the board. You said their tackles are out. Taysom Hill is battling the injury. I don't see this Saints offense struggled to score against the Jets last week. That was one of the worst games to watch on the TV.
Right.
This week
it would be a median game, by the way, in the 1 o'clock slate today.
To go to Tampa against an obviously good Bucs defense, I don't like, even if Tampa Bay does struggle a bit, maybe Brady does throw a pick or two against the Saints defense, I just don't see the Saints offense scoring a ton of points, and I think that's why Tampa Bay rolls.
Is there a what happens if implication with this game? Right?
No, Tampa.
The Saints, but the Saints are on the bubble,
they
right?
clinch. Tampa wins, they clinch. Saints are still involved.
What happens if I don't watch this game?
So what happens if the Bucs absolutely annihilate the Saints, but no one's watching? That's actually kind of how I feel
Tree
about
falls in the forest type of game.
About Jags Texans.
I was going to say, were we previewing that one next?
No, we just did. That was it.
That game will happen.
We just did. Yeah, that game is scheduled to kick off. I guess
I think it will be inspired football in Jacksonville. No Urban Meyer.
Really?
No Urban Meyer. That's going to be. It'll be. If Trevor Lawrence looks good,
Trevor Lawrence is going to throw 300 yards, 4 touchdowns.
The Jags have won more than 6 games in a season once in the last 11 years. Like, if it's inspired football by the Jags, it's like the first time.
They're favored by 5.
Yeah.
Absolute
I think the Houston Texans are
okay. All right. Let's get to the inactives of the week. This is everybody's favorite time when they get to see us freak out over who's in and who's out. Kendall?
Yeah, I don't know if I have anything to freak you guys out with, though. So we have inactive Emmanuel Sanders, Ty Johnson, Zach Moss, and then, like AG said, Jimmy Smith tested positive for COVID, so he's out. Expected to play James Conner, Chase Edmonds, Tony Pollard, DJ Moore, Zach Ertz, Rex Burkhead.
Rex Burkhead's in?
Change everything.
The Jags still favored by 5?
I take it all back. Ian, is Chase Edmonds going to do anything for my fantasy team?
Well, James Conner is banged up. I mean, it's obviously with his name being on there with that knee injury, wasn't a guarantee to suit up this week. So it does take away a little bit of the allure from Conner. But in the first game back with Edmonds, it's tough to be too confident. The good news is we're facing the freaking Detroit Lions. So I think generally most start-sit decisions, you should be going with Conner and Edmonds. Don't be afraid to stack both those guys in the same lineup, even if if it means, a 10 ranking difference. Like, okay, I get it, it's not ideal, you're somewhat capping your upside, but 13.5 point favorites, those are situations where we can feel more confident and go with multiple players.
That's Moneyball right there. Yeah. You're just buying points at that point.
It's all about who you know.
High floor. If you know you're going to have the lead on your opponent, just win, get to the next round of fantasy playoffs. That's what it's all about. Folks, if you guys have liked some of the stats we've talked about here on this show, great way that you can get it too is by going over to PFF.com and get yourself a subscription. You can get an Edge or an Elite subscription. Different price models that you can see exactly what you get for both of them over at PFF.com. Edge will give you a handful of things, but Elite, man, that gives you all the premium stats, everything that you could ever want when it comes to NFL draft, fantasy football, college football, like everything. So much stuff. Betting tools as well. Elite's going to give you the most bang for your buck when it comes to everything that you can check out. So go see them both. Edge, Elite subscriptions, premium stats, read them all over at PFF.com. All right, time to get our main man Darius Butler here in on the show with us. Darius, I got to start off with your Colts, man. Big win on Saturday night, taking it to the number 1 seed New England Patriots. How'd you feel about the Colts?
Huge win, man. I was excited about him, man. I picked against him. I went with my brain. I didn't see it happening. Didn't trust Carson Wentz against his defense. I thought Belichick and that defense would do a better job of, keeping Jonathan Taylor under wraps. But he got loose. And ended in a walk-off fashion, man. They won a physical ball game at home with your quarterback only completing 5 passes.
Jeez.
So still some concern there with the quarterback position, especially going down the stretch. A big game by the defense for the Colts, and obviously another big game by potentially the MVP, Jonathan Taylor.
Potentially MVP? Guys?
I mean, he's the first ever opposing number 1 option to score a touchdown against Bill Belichick, right? Because they're the only team that tries to take away.
Right, of course. Yeah. MVP, Jonathan Taylor. Do we think it's got legs? Do we think it's just tweets? What do we think?
I just don't think it's in the conversation. I think they're going to give him Offensive Player of the Year, and they're going to give a quarterback.
It's like one of the most impressive players on offense all season.
Yeah.
But value, you take Aaron Rodgers off the Packers, and they're 5 wins worse. You take Jonathan Taylor off. The Colts barely even have 5 wins, let alone being 5 wins worse when you take him out. And again, the guys behind him, obviously Hines and Marlon Mack, and those guys are. You put them in there. They're not as good for sure, but it may be a win or two.
The issue is everyone wants MVP to be best player in the NFL. Best player in the NFL, that's who I want the MVP to go to. That's not the name of the award. The award is most valuable player. Most valuable players play quarterback. That's it. That's a fact. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor misses that game. The spread moves by a point and a half, maybe. They're still favored by a half point. I guarantee it. That Tom Brady misses this Bucs game.
I don't know about that.
You don't think so?
No, not with that. Jonathan Taylor has been. He's been tremendous all year. Obviously, 28 goal is 28 goals. This is one of those different situations where I think that line would have moved much more than that if 28 was out.
Yeah, I think we have a ton of history of basically evidence that when a running back is out, when it's one of the greats like McCaffrey or Kamara or Taylor, the spread moves half a point. The market just simply does not respect the value of running backs. And we can see, I think last night shows exactly where the value is in an amazing running back. And it's in you're ahead and you're going to be more ahead, right? They don't necessarily get you the victory. They pour it on. And we saw that with Taylor. They're up 3 and the guy just goes 80 yards for a touchdown. And it's oh, okay, that's where it is. It's not necessarily in that sort of fulcrum point of the game. And that's why you've always seen it. You've never seen running backs move the betting markets that much.
I'm surprised that we didn't get some pushback for Cordero Patterson.
Well, if you look at the numbers, we're talking about on-off splits. They have scored 0 touchdowns without Cordero Patterson all season long.
That's true. We're talking most valuable Patterson, what the award is obviously named after. Then that makes it. You know what? I kind of didn't want to do it, but I think I've got to do it. I've got to open up the 4th down 2-point conversion box here on this show because we had one of those situations yesterday in the game with the Colts and the Patriots where Bill Belichick opts to go for a field goal. In that situation, obviously there were plenty of words on social media after the Thursday night Kansas City Los Angeles Chargers game. Darius, what'd you think about Bill Belichick's decision to kick the field goal last night? And then also, what'd you think about Brandon Staley's tactics for it last Thursday?
Hated Belichick's decision to kick the field goal. I'll start there, especially down as much as you were at that point in the game. Definitely needed a touchdown. And I have, a different perspective with this whole 4th down, 2-point conversion. And it starts with Belichick because I was a rookie on that 4th and 2 game. We win the Indy. And I think it all depends, honestly, on how the feel of the game, the matchups, your quarterback, their defense, all those different things. That's why we went for it on 4th down. And Belichick came in the meeting the next day and said, hey, one thing you're not going to be able to say is that I was scared. Last night looked a little scared. But I hated that move. Frank going for it was huge, and then Brandon Staley for the Chargers, they went for it maybe one too many times. That one when they went for it right before the half, they could have went up 7, and they didn't benefit from field position. That was the one I had an issue with. But I've been watching the Chargers and obviously Herbert all year. That's been their MO. And then he came out after the game and once again said, hey, that's how we're going to play the ball around here. And when you have that type of identity, the team is going to back you, the players are going to back you, and that's your blueprint. So you stick with it. I had no problem with anything besides the before half one. And then when you went up 7, if you're going to do analytics and be aggressive, try to go up 9 at that point. So those are the 2 issues I had with Staley. Outside of that, I'm good.
Yeah, I personally don't have an issue with going for it when you're up 7 to go up 9. It's break even. It's not like people are trying to equate that with the fourth down decisions, which are clearly plus EV, and this to go up 9. The issue is, and this is very similar to the whole going for 2 when you're behind by 9, is the issue is if you're ahead, if you're ahead, you want to increase the uncertainty. So when you're up 8, like it's just there's so much uncertainty to it, right? Like if you're the opposing team drives the field on you, like they don't know necessarily whether to leave a minute and a half on the clock, to leave 30 seconds on the clock, to leave 3 minutes on the clock, because they don't know the outcome of the 2-point conversion. Obviously, if you know the outcome of the 2-point conversion, you know whether or not to leave yourself 2 minutes to either kick an onside kick or get a stop.
Sure.
If you're down 7, you know to bleed it down to 10 seconds so you don't give the opposition a chance to come back for a field goal. And to me, if you know that obviously beforehand, that's better. And if you're the team that's leading, you want to keep that uncertainty in there. You want to sort of screw with the head of the team you're playing.
Sure.
And the value of being up, that's the value of being up 8, right? Is that the team, if you ever gave the ball back to them, they're not going to know, right? We saw this in the Baltimore Ravens Indianapolis Colts game, week 5. The Ravens didn't have a choice. They had to go for the 8, and they left about 40 seconds on the clock, which was enough time for Indianapolis to drive down and get in field goal range, right? If they were only down 7, they would have known they could like bleed it all the way down to 10 seconds and go. Whereas if you bleed it down to 10 seconds when you're down 8 and you miss, game's over, right? The game's over, and I get it from the broadcast perspective. The game is in the balance the longest, which they like, right? But from a winning the game perspective,
I mean that's what you like as a player, though.
But that doesn't. I mean, you have to condition your players to want to win more than to want the game as close as possible, right? Like to me, I think that's.
I mean, that's how you win, though.
But no, you win by scoring more points than the opposition. Like that's the
allegedly.
I think that's the issue.
So
with like great coaching comes in the exploiting the differences between things that are correlated with winning and actually winning. Because being down by only one score is correlated with winning, but it's not perfectly so. There are situations where you want to be able, like, it gives you a better chance to win to go for 2, and the great coaches sort of see that small difference and exploit it.
Yeah, I mean, on paper and after the fact, once everything is all done, you can look at it and say, hey, this is what it could have been or should have been, or this is what it is, looking at numbers. But when you're actually in that game, when you're actually in a 3:43 left on the clock, and this team has to score 2 times, and you know that as a defender, you know that as a play caller, that's where I want to be as a defense. I don't care about what happened 20 million simulations before that. This game, when it's sweat dropping down the butt crack of my ass right now and I'm playing against Aaron Rodgers, I need to know he has to drive, he has to get an onside kick, and he has to drive again. I give a damn about the numbers. So that's the feeling part as a player, which matters. Obviously, it matters how you call the game, because some coaches are better in certain situations when they know they have to stop a quarterback once or twice. And it happens, and it matters how I'm going to play the coverage. I can be more aggressive if I know they have to get the ball again and come down and drive again. So if I'm in the cover 3 and I'm getting a formation where I'm expecting an outbreaker, I can say, you know what, I'm gonna drop in and just make a chance to make a play. Now, if I'm down 7 or 8 and they just have to score once, that's a completely different ball game. I have to play it more safe. So it's a lot that goes kind of in between the numbers that you can't really quantify on the spreadsheet. So that's the argument when it comes to scoring twice or going up 8, or when you don't have to, like those different things, keeping the game in the balance. As far as the numbers, that probably tells one story, but being a player, being on that field, being between those lines, you want that game in the balance as long as possible.
I do think go ahead. Go ahead. I think an under-discussed, I want to go back to the fourth down decisions. An under-discussed part that does backs this analytical side of the plus EV moves. Like, you increase your win probability by going for it, but also you see players like Keenan Allen after the game who's like, I like that. I felt empowered by that.
Right,
I'm excited to go for it. He wants the ball in our hands, and we need to go make a play. We need to go execute. I do think that is not that doesn't show up in the win probability added and stuff like that, but that is a huge positive, right? It's the same thing that Darius is hitting on with a different, analytical decision on going for 2 up 8 or whatever. But the fourth down decision stuff, empowering your offense, empowering the players, the best players on your team, Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert, etc., is a huge win.
You do still have to get your guys to buy in,
exactly,
right? Even if it's the right decision, if your guys don't like what's going on, they're not going to play their best.
That's
right?
why I think like the models are even maybe a little bit too conservative with going for it, because I do think players are, when they feel empowered, like there was the San Francisco Giants manager, Gabe Kapler's the NL manager of the year, basically said something like, I can add 2% to our win probability, but if my team doesn't buy in, then I basically lose that edge.
Yeah,
Whereas when, you know, that's one thing these fourth down decisions don't suffer from. All the players want that sort of
want another opportunity.
Want that agency, right? Yeah. Exactly. And I think ultimately
all the offensive players.
Yeah.
All the offensive players, and especially if you're a good player, you want the game. And that's why you get paid. That's why Keenan Allen is one of the best players on their team. Of course, he's going to say that. And as a defensive player, depending on how that offense is going, depending on how their offense is doing against us, I may feel differently about that. But obviously, if you put a camera in my face, I'm not going to throw my guys under the bus. You know, you make a decision and we go for it. But, I mean, every player in a situation where you're going to be on the field, that's like if I'm a nickelback, you say, hey, are we going nickel or base? Like, yeah, let's go nickel. Like, I don't care what they're coming out and what person. I want to be in the game. I want the game to be in my hands. So you definitely empower, you know, the players that are on the field, but you also have to make sound decisions for the whole team. And going for it, it makes sense. And sometimes you have to know the matchup. You have to feel the game, and then obviously the analytics of it has to make sense as well. I just don't like coaches or people that get in these positions and just, you know, taking advice from a bot or taking advice from a spread like that. That just doesn't work in sports. When we're playing with robots, that's 100% fine. When you're actually playing with people, you got to know your team. You got to know like the real heartbeat of that offense or defense or special teams, depending on.
I think you got to try to see the context of obviously everything involved, because even when you look at those decisions where it didn't work out for the Chargers, it was Donald Parham drop, which he's okay, thankfully. Jared Cook drop, Mike Williams drop. Like Herbert puts those on a dime. Like most of the times those are caught anyways. You look at catch percentages, what are they? 80, 90%. So it's like okay, one of those three gets caught. Game's totally different anyways, and maybe the narrative's a little different.
And the models do take into consideration the strengths of the team, and I think that's what was so hard to watch last night when the Patriots sort of kicked the field goal and said, you know, hey, we're gonna go down 10. It's like, Mac Jones is not a great quarterback yet, right? So to be like, the last thing you want to see him have to do is get into scoring position twice, right? Additionally, like the Colts are a very good running football team, right? And so if you kick the ball back to him and say, I got to stop Jonathan Taylor twice, like that just seems absurd to me, right? And so I think that's like, those were the two things where, the models are taking that into. I mean, we literally grade the players, right? So we can tell you, oh, this is, you know, you're kicking the ball back to Jacksonville, or you're kicking the ball back to Indianapolis. Like those are two different things. And again, like that's, you know, I think that we're mature enough to sort of like understand that nuance.
Urban catching strays as expected. What if we just banned kickers? Then we wouldn't have to have these discussions.
Great point.
After every single prime time game.
Who's the Presbyterian coach who never punts, never kicks, whatever?
Yes.
He's just,
Kevin Kelly,
he's just taking it to the nth degree. We can
straight
talk about
Madden mode.
He is.
I mean, I enjoy it as a viewer. I love it.
Because there's so many pivotal points, if you will, throughout the game. We can talk about this all day, but we do have to get onto what the main exercise is that we're doing with Darius here today, and this is a fun one. So over the last couple of weeks, we've had our Super Bowl picks. We said who was going to represent the AFC, who was going to represent the NFC. Last week, we talked about, hey, who our favorite best bets might be. Now, we're putting our money where our mouth is. Now, this is where it's all on the line. We're giving ourselves something that we can call back on, that there's no excuses. It's an evenly played game. What we are doing is the five of us here are going to snake draft our best bets to win the Super Bowl. So, we're going to do it in alphabetical order. Felt like that was probably the fairest way to do it. So, we're going to start with Austin. You can thank your parents for that. Then we got Darius, we've got Eric, we've got Ian, and then me. I'm going to be in the hot corner, so that means that I also get the first pick in the second round. We have the numbers in front of us here with the updated odds to win the Super Bowl. We'll be able to say those as we make every pick. But, Austin, it is your honor to start us off here.
These are my best bets. Not the teams I'm going to think win the Super Bowl.
Correct.
Already made
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I will open with.
Yes.
I will open with steal from Hartitz, Dallas Cowboys plus 1,200.
Okay. All right. I don't know if you were even going to get to that one. You're 4 away.
Have an original thought for once.
You know what? I'm going to be really weak here.
Let's go.
The Bucks have the best path to the Super Bowl with the remaining schedule. I'm going to go with the Bucks. I think realistically only 3 teams win it: Bucks, Packers, or the Chiefs.
That's why you punt on 4th down, Darius.
Sometimes.
Darius is just kicking the extra point down 9 here.
Man,
all right,
that's a low blow.
Actually, I'm going to go with the next, because here's the thing. Like, Darius is right in the sense that the Bucks have an easy schedule moving forward.
They do.
Right? And they could have the 1 seed in their hands, but the NFC has way better teams than the AFC. Like, if you look, and to me, like, Kansas City's basically like 1 Tennessee Titans loss away from having the 1 seed and having a bye for the 4th straight year. So I'm going to go Kansas City 11-2.
Are you a Chiefs fan?
Wow. We're all shocked.
Wow.
We're all shocked.
Pat, hey. Andy called the good place Thursday.
He did.
I'm so happy he
called the good place.
Pat got carried on Thursday. Travis Kelce and Hill carried Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, interesting. Do they give those guys up in the playoffs? Seems weird.
All right, Ian, what's your first pick?
Everyone going chalk. I'm going to actually be a man about this and take the Green Bay Packers at plus.
They're the next Not to quote Austin, but what the fuck is that?
Hey, we got 3 players coming back, 3 all-pro caliber players. We haven't even seen the best version of Green Bay yet.
Green Bay would have been my second pick. I like Green Bay.
All right, so I got back-to-back picks here. First one's going to be the Arizona Cardinals. I know that for sure. They're plus 900, so they're going to be my pick there. I don't totally believe in New England. I get that it's Belichick, but I'm not super in on Mac Jones winning the Super Bowl.
Recency bias?
No. Look, people were like, "Oh, how great is it going to be when the Bucs face the Patriots in the Super Bowl?"
Great.
I'm going to tell you how great it's going to be. Tampa's going to win by 25. That's how great it would have been.
Sam said that last week, and look where he is now. I mean,
yeah, it's dead.
Wow.
I don't trust any quarterback in the AFC at this point here, except
Sam's not dead. Just like that.
Darius, and your guy Herbert, though, MVP.
Okay, all right.
I don't trust him at this point either.
I got the Cardinals.
Figure it out.
Los Angeles Chargers.
I was going to take them.
Los Angeles Chargers.
One's a good bet.
Plus 2,500. Let's go, baby. Arizona Cardinals, Los Angeles Chargers. Back on you, Ian.
I like that.
you know what? Again, just trying to do something out of the way here. New England Patriots plus 700. I'm not going to be a victim of the moment like some of these other people.
You guys,
a victim of the moment. I'm a winner of the moment.
Look. I'm going to show everybody here how football guy I am, including you, Darius. All right,
let's go.
Eagles.
They have a path to the 1 seed in the AFC.
The Saints.
They're getting Derrick Henry back in the playoffs.
Wow.
They're getting AJ Brown back in the playoffs. Give me the Tennessee Titans at 20-1.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
You have to finish that sentence to win the Super Bowl.
To win the Super Bowl.
Right,
look, I was there. They were at the AFC Championship game just 2 years ago against the Chiefs with the same formula.
It's true. I mean, if they get all their guys back.
They're wreaking havoc on the formula is what they're doing.
All right, so Darius, you pick the Bucs first. Who you got on this one?
I'm going with the Colts.
Ooh.
Going with the Colts. Going with Jonathan Taylor and that defense.
3,500.
What is that? 3,500?
3,500 to win the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I love that pick. Love that pick.
That's a good little gift there if you can win that one. Austin, you got back-to-back, which is absolutely dangerous.
I will go Rams at plus 1,000. I think that was a value.
Absolute chalk. Nice.
Plus 1,600.
Wow.
I like Bills. Good picks, Austin.
What, did you want me to take the Niners?
The 2 highest picks. Oh,
I opened with Cowboys plus 1,200. When you get to the bottom of the barrel here, someone's got to make a play.
Wow. I'm going to quote you right there on Twitter and just say that the Bills are the bottom of the barrel, and that's it. Completely out of context.
I didn't go to the bottom.
Hashtag Bills Mafia. See what happens there. Darius, who's your next pick here?
The Dolphins. I got my daughter helping, but I am actually going to go with the.
Oh no, she said the Dolphins. It's not good.
No, Dolphins. I'm going to the Ravens.
Okay. All right.
The Ravens
best
might not even
left. He's been playing like crap. And he's hurt, but I'll go with the Ravens.
The Ravens are basically like even money to even make the playoffs after a loss today. So that one's tricky. I'm gonna go hometown here.
No way.
Burrow, Chase.
Load up the skyline, baby.
Zach Taylor.
Load up the skyline.
Zach Taylor's the hole in this logic. But give me the R Cincinnati Bengals. Who day? Who day?
Who day? It's true. Ian?
I'm taking Jimmy Garoppolo in the San Francisco 49ers.
Wow, way to go out on a limb.
I know.
You've literally picked the top team left all 3 times.
But see, I'm trying to divert attention to Austin.
Yeah.
People don't realize that.
I like it. Play to win.
Mr. Relevant here. I mean, it's the Browns. As much as I don't have a ton of confidence in it, I said last week on the show, my big bold dare I say is that the Cleveland Browns were still going to win the division. They can. The rest of the team is great, but I have zero faith.
I'd rather bet the Vikings
in
plus
Baker
10,
Mayfield. I really did. I wanted somebody to take the Browns from me just so I could pick the Eagles
The Vikings are cutting starters right now.
chant, but I don't even really get to do that, so I'm not even going to yell it out at the end.
I don't think anyone's
Okay, here we go. Austin, you've got Cowboys, Rams, Bills.
That's hot.
Darius, you've got Bucks, Colts, Ravens. Eric, Chiefs, Titans, our Bengals. Ian went full chalk, Packers, Patriots, 49ers, and then I've got the Cardinals.
I'm the only one without an NFC team. Like I tell you, the path for the AFC is going to be easy for whoever. Like it's going to be easier.
So the lowest odd team that was picked was Eric got the Bengals at
50-1.
5,000. Yeah, plus 5,000. Okay.
Austin's the only one with all 3 teams that really got a chance.
Exactly. All 3 of my teams have
The Rams. We've already discussed this, but Stafford's not a win in Lambeau guy. If you're is Dak a win in Lambeau guy? No.
Stop.
Josh Allen might be.
But
Josh Allen might be. But he's in the AFC, so it's irrelevant.
Great point. Yeah. No, it's good. That's good. Austin gets the first overall pick, and he's got the best list. Wow.
Absolutely. I mean, this is an interesting exercise. I mean, chasing 3 legitimate deep postseason contenders rather than like at the back end, you guys are like taking flyers. Like Bengals are not.
I'm not taking a flyer.
No, Bengals are not
I'm taking
3 of the top 11 picks.
I know. I'm saying it was an interesting exercise and it worked out well for me.
I'm taking Darius's MVP, Justin Herbert, at the back end for the turn.
Look, the Bengals.
Couldn't get better value.
The last time the Bengals won a playoff game, it was against the Los Angeles Raiders. So we're gonna see it happen here. The Raiders have literally changed cities 3 times since the Bengals won a playoff game. I think it happens this year.
And now they're back to Oakland.
You heard it.
They're back to Oakland until they win their 7th game.
You heard it here, folks. Eric, he's going to eat Skyline Chili if the Bengals make the playoffs. I'm signing you up for Skyline Chili, but
George, I got to send George a gift. I forgot he saved my life when I was in Cincy.
Dude, what happened? What happened?
No, I was just like, hey, George, yeah, I'm just heading down the street. I'm going to stop at Skyline real quick. He's like, no, please. I'm like, you sure, man? Come on, I always hear about
To George from Darius' digestive system.
That's actually a life-saving treat there.
That really is. Darius, before we get out of here, best bets for the I can't even say weekend because now we got games on Tuesday, we got games on Monday. So just best bets that we got left. What do you got?
We got Cardinals. Cardinals are playing the Lions, so I mean, almost anybody who's playing the Lions, it's a pretty good bet. But I like them. Obviously, a disappointing loss against the Rams, but I think they get back on track even without D-Hop. Put up a bunch of points. Lions stink.
Who's the dog of the day? You got a dog of the day?
Dog of the day, I'm sticking with your guys' hometown team, the Bengals. They're getting 3 points against the Broncos. I'm taking the Bengals money line, man. They don't lose 3 in a row. I think Burrow was the highest graded quarterback last week, even against with Bosa, who couldn't be blocked, and Zach Taylor, who couldn't call a game right. But I think they get it right today.
Zach Taylor just takes more strays than any
shrapnel.
Yeah, I know. Well, he's going to pass Urban Meyer at this point because now we can't even drop strays on Urban.
I will.
Both guys.
Okay, I guess
I'll find a way.
Both guys stay in Cincinnati after games. So.
All right, PFF stat of the week. So we do this every week on this show as we are researching all of our topics, all of our game previews, all of our best bets. We find some pretty great stats in PFF's ultimate database. So giving everybody the chance to shout out some crazy stats that they found this week. Eric, I'm going to start with you. What's your PFF stat of the week?
This changed a little bit after last night, but going into the week, Jonathan Taylor was leading all running backs in yards gained on perfectly blocked runs. He was averaging 9.9 yards per carry on such plays. He was leading the next best guy by like 300 yards. So again, we talk about who's the reason in the Indianapolis for their run game, and it's both, right? When it's perfectly blocked, the guy's got like 1,000 yards this year, 9.9 yards a carry, better than the next guy by 300 or so yards.
Wow. Ian, what's yours?
Since the Browns have released Odell Beckham, Baker Mayfield has thrown 2 passes to wide receivers. Odell Beckham has 3 touchdowns.
There it is.
And coincidentally, Trevor, I think you've been gone. You have not watched the games in PFF studios every single time, and they're playing on Tuesday. So we're good.
Oh, yeah. We're getting another touchdown for Odell.
Another touchdown.
Throw the house on it. Awesome.
Wait, Baker threw two touchdowns to wide receivers since Odell's been gone?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just 2.
Wow.
And Odell's got 3.
Believe it.
You just stunned Darius.
He did. That's the point of the PFF stat of the week right there. That's the reaction we're looking for. Austin, what do you got?
In weeks 1 through 4, the Kansas City Chiefs have the 32nd ranked defense in EPA per play allowed, the 32nd ranked defense in scoring drive percentage allowed. Since week 5, number 3 in EPA per play, number 2 in scoring drive percentage allowed.
Chris Jones, the
Spagnuolo is in the magic man right now. He's turned things around with Chris Jones in and out, Frank Clark in and out. They've had injuries in the secondary. Kansas City Chiefs defense is legit.
Chris Jones, the most
Let's go Sorensen
since week 7.
This is not a PFF exclusive stat, but I wanted to say it before we got out of the show. I mentioned that we weren't going to throw too many more strays at Urban Meyer, but save the best for last. In 13 games as NFL coach, he lost more games, 11, than he had in his 7 years as Ohio State's head coach.
That doesn't surprise me.
Get out of here. Get him out of town.
The better stat is
awful. One of the worst head coach hires of all time. No question about it.
The better stat is the Jags opened up as 3-point favorites, and when they fired Urban Meyer, it moved out to 5. They're now 5-point favorites since they lost their head coach. That's how freaking crazy.
More valuable than Jonathan Taylor.
It's insane. Yeah, exactly. Losing Urban Meyer is more valuable than losing
Urban Meyer, Defensive Player of the Year.
Maybe.
Defensive Player of the Year. I think that's what
Special Teams Player of the Year. Come on,
that's very easy.
Don't kick him while he's down. Sorry.
Wow, there it is. The kicking joke. Final thoughts, Darius. What are you doing for the holidays? Watching all the games? They're kind of spread out here. We got a little bit of a treat here with some Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday games.
Yeah, man, I'm just going to be laid up watching football, watching guys. I hate that some of these teams are still, quote unquote, in the hunt. You got 5-8 teams, 4-9 teams. So finally those guys get wiped off the board and start booking their Airbnbs for the offseason. But I'm excited this time of year, man. It doesn't get any better than this. Good football all week long.
It is great. Extremely rapid fire, and I'm getting Kendall in on this as well. Darius, eggnog, is it good or is it trash?
Love eggnog.
Wow.
Especially when it got a little, a special
I guess.
sauce.
I mean,
I've never felt closer to an NFL player.
Big eggnog guy.
Right. He just sits down, watches games, wants people to lose, and then he drinks eggnog with a little brandy. Darius Butler and I are the same.
Are you an okay? So
I like eggnog too. I think you can overdo it though, right? Eggnog's that's heavy, dude. You get a couple eggnogs, dude, you're gonna feel like a piece of shit.
Ian, are you an eggnog guy?
I'm an eggnog fan.
Eric, you eggnog?
Oh, it's fine.
Kendall.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Sure, why not? Eggnog is a choice, okay? You sign up for eggnog, it's coming in hot. You can't casually drink eggnog.
I did not know I was going to be the only one on this desk to hate eggnog.
Wow.
I did not think that was going to be the case.
Thing, right? Or
to hate eggnog?
Yeah, you say everyone else likes eggnog?
Yeah, being different. I'm just being different. All right, well, y'all enjoy the eggnog out there. These guys are going to enjoy the eggnog. Kendall's going to enjoy the eggnog. I'm not going to. But enjoy the great football that we have over the next couple of weeks. Have a wonderful holidays with your friends and family. We will see you guys right here, same time next Sunday.